resignation, which he won't do and he shouldn't do because he would only be doing it under the pressure of an unconstitutional impeachment or invocation of the 25th Amendment. Let's start with the 25th Amendment. Everybody knows what the 25th Amendment was designed to do. It was designed to prevent what happened to Woodrow Wilson when he had a stroke and simply could not govern, or Ronald Reagan, who he shot and he was unconscious and in a hospital having surgery. Of course, you then turn over the presidency to the vice president. But it was never intended for a situation like this, and I have to give Vice President Pence credit. He's done two right things. Number one, he stood up to the Democrats saying, I'm not going to invoke the 25th Amendment, and he stood up to Trump saying, I'm not going to distort my role as president of the Senate by trying to act in a substantive way. I'm just the presiding officer, and I cast votes in case there's a tie, but I don't get to tell the Senate what to do. So Vice President Pence has emerged as something of a hero on both sides. Of course, he's hated by both sides because he didn't do enough. So that option is off the table. The 25th Amendment, if anybody seriously claims that the 25th Amendment is applicable, they simply are either lying to you or they're ignorant. That you cannot make an argument that the 25th Amendment was intended to cover a situation like this. The president is doing his job. You may disagree with it. He's giving pardons. He's talking to his Mideast negotiators. He's trying to get additional countries to come in and normalize relations with Israel. He's doing his job. I disapprove of what he did last Wednesday and the speech he gave, but it was completely protected by the First Amendment, which is why impeachment is also not an available constitutional option for two reasons. Number one, he didn't commit an impeachable offense. And number two, what the Democrats are trying to do is not really do what the impeachment provisions say, which is to end the term of president. What they want to do is just impeach him and then have it hang over him without giving him an opportunity to have a trial and defend himself while he's still president because the schedule doesn't permit it. So there are two options. One, they impeach him and nothing happens. That is, they just have it hanging over him as if somebody's indicted, and they don't give him an opportunity to go to trial and defend himself. Or the other possibility is they will try to put him on trial in the Senate after he leaves office. They can't do that. The Constitution only provides for impeachment for people who are in office. If, some people are saying, well, you can impeach him even if he's out of office because that would prevent him from running again in 2024. If that were the case, they could impeach you, Dan, because I think you're over 35 and you're an American citizen, and that means you can run for president in 2024. And if one party or the other doesn't like you, they can haul you in front of the Senate, impeach you, and then say you can't run for office. That is such an absurd interpretation of the Constitution. Common sense has lost its way, and it's just a tragedy because people are so anxious to get rid of Trump that they are prepared to twist, bend, distort, destroy, tear up the Constitution.
Yes, Section 4, Article 2, pretty clear. President, Vice President, all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, and or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Tough to remove someone from office when they're not in office. And also on 25, on Amendment 25, Trump could challenge that and would go on. It would go on for weeks. I mean, it's.
Oh yeah. Well, all he has to do is write a letter saying he's okay.
Yeah,
and then
that's
it has to both houses of the Senate, both houses of Congress by 2/3 vote have to vote to remove him. So this is political theater, but it's very dangerous political theater.
Let me get you
precedent.
Let me get you to address a question one of my listeners just asked before you came on. Steve from Cambridge, who's a very bright guy, asked if I would ask a question of you for him, and that is that we've heard 60 courts have turned down Giuliani, Jenna Ellis et al., Sidney Powell, etc. And his argument was that is it fair to say that the refusal of these courts to take an action is morally procedural than merely procedural and not substantive? I was arguing that the recourse that they were looking for was some form of injunctive relief, which they had to show at least a minimum of irreparable harm.
So far, they're all procedural. There was no standing in the Texas case. Other cases said the pleadings didn't allege sufficient, but there hasn't been a full trial. Look, I don't think there were distortions in this election. I'm not on the side of my former student Ted Cruz or Joshua Hawley. I think they're wrong, but they have a right to say what they said on the floor of the Senate. and the president has the right to be wrong and espouse views about the election which are not supported by the evidence. So, the issue is not, the Supreme Court of the United States held some years ago that the First Amendment doesn't ever determine truth, that it doesn't matter whether something's true or false under the First Amendment, because the First Amendment is not a judge of truth. The marketplace of ideas is the judge of truth. The First Amendment says, say what you want. If people think you're not telling the truth, let them respond. Obviously, there are some exceptions to that, defamation and other kinds of things.
Sure.
But generally, if you say, I think the election was stolen, the other side has an opportunity to say, no, it wasn't. And then you have a debate, and the public resolves it.
Well, the case that you know much better than anyone, Brandenburg versus Ohio, said specifically, speech cannot be punished unless that speech, quote, is directed to inciting or producing imminent lawless action and is likely to incite or produce such action. Yeah. That's a unanimous decision, 1969. Pretty high standard.
Remember what this guy was saying, Brandenburg. He was saying, kill the Jews, put them in gas chambers, send the blacks back to Africa. It was horrible, outrageous stuff. He was a Nazi and a Klansman.
Yes.
And the Supreme Court unanimously said, hey, you don't like it? Answer it. But don't suppress it. Don't stop it. Look, Holocaust denial speech is permitted in the United States. All manner of false accusations, allegations. Somebody can get in the square and say the earth is flat. Somebody can say that, John Kennedy is alive and well, and so is Elvis Presley. I don't mean to disrespect the dead, obviously, but those are the kinds of arguments that are allowed to be made under our First Amendment.
So
and
how
the idea
then
that law students would try to disbar lawyers because they didn't agree with their arguments?
So how then has the law community, including former colleagues of yours, basically using the same arguments that some of the Southern racists used against the civil rights marchers who were coming into the Deep South in the early 60s, and these people are causing problems here, and they're inciting violence. They were using the same arguments that are being used today by people like Larry Tribe.
Of course. Well, Larry Tribe, the Constitution always supports his politics. There's never an inconsistency between Tribe's personal political views and the Constitution. The Constitution always comes out his way. It's as if he was there when the Constitution was written. And he said to James Madison, I'm a liberal Democrat. I live in Cambridge. I want to make sure that you write a Constitution that supports all of my political views. So, you just can't trust his constitutional analysis when it comes to partisan issues. He's a zealot partisan. He's one who signed that petition, disbarring his former students and others. And I'm shocked at my colleagues that they don't understand that the kind of speech that the president made has been made by suffragettes, civil rights lawyers, union leaders. The typical speech in Washington is, go to the Capitol and stand in front of the Capitol and protest, show them how strong you are, fight back, use all the power and strength we have. That's the typical speech that union leaders have been giving and civil rights people have been giving for years. In this case, the president said, do it peacefully and patriotically. I still disagree with the president's speech. I don't think he should have made it, but it's so clearly within the confines of Brandenburg and the First Amendment that I challenge Larry Tribe. I challenge anybody to debate me on your show as to how that speech comes outside the protection of the First Amendment. The only reason Tribe would give as to why it falls outside the First Amendment is because Donald Trump gave it. There's no principled reason for that.
Professor Dershowitz, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the clarity of your explanations and also the integrity of your position. You are a genuine liberal, and I mean that in the best sense of the word, and I can't imagine the amount of aggravation that has been visited upon you.
Oh, I get a lot of aggravation, but I get back
because
I have my own podcast now. It's called The Dersh Show, and you can get it and listen to it every day, and if you want to hear me rant and rave against Larry Tribe and my colleagues and others, just listen to the Dersh Show. You can get it on, Rumble, YouTube.
All right. Well,
all the platforms.
And you are always welcome here on this program any night. I know that, Alan.
And how many years I've been on your show?
It's been a while.
How many years we go back? I didn't even want to think about it. I bet. How long have you been on the air?
It's been many years, and
and
again,
I've often every year.
I've often said to people that he is my true north. That what Alan Dershowitz says, I just admire your integrity and you have stood up for what you have always thought is right, and I just want to say thank you, and I mean that on behalf of a lot of my audience.
And so have you, and that's why I always accept your invitation to come on your show. I always love being on your show. I like your listeners, and I like you.
Alan, thank you so much. Stay well, my friend. Happy New Year. We will hopefully talk soon.
Yeah, let's hope next year is a better one for all of us. Be well.
Absolutely. Bye. Thank you, Alan. The great Alan Dershowitz. We will be back on the other side of the 11 o'clock news with your reaction to that interview.
Salesforce presents a mini meditation. Unplug your mind, Minneapolis, leaving all your devices to their own devices. Ignore your smartphones, headphones, tablets, gadgets. Let them all recharge so you can refocus on your customer. On your path to customer success, focus your teams with a single 360-degree view of your customer with Salesforce Customer 360. Find customer focus at salesforce.com/360.